Welcome back to A Misogyny. I'm your host, Hannah Blue. You're listening to episode 87, How to Stop Predatory Behavior in Its Tracks. Well, hello, my listeners. As promised, I'm back with another episode. Before I get into our subject, let me give a warm shout out to 3 new countries that have joined our Misogyny podcast: Argentina, Paraguay, and Saudi Arabia. Hello and welcome, friends, and thank you so much for tuning in to us. We hope you stay a while. Now, in episode 85, we talked about stalking and the consequences that arise from it. This week, we're going to talk about unwelcomed, unwanted, predatory behavior. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to stop it. My sister and I were having a conversation last night, and she talks a lot about her job. And you know, if you've ever worked in corporate America, you've been on the receiving end of some pretty, I just say, ignorant, dastardly things, depending on who you work with. But she said she was proud and grateful that she had a job. And I understand that. But for some people, going to work can be a chore. Sometimes the workplace can be a very toxic, unwelcoming environment. And for many employees, it's the last place they want to be. I think waking up every day hating to go to work isn't something I'd wish on anybody. And I can say that. I've been there. And if you've been there too, then you understand exactly what I'm saying. Some people are dealing with workplace violence and unprofessional behavior right now. But predatory behavior doesn't stop at the workplace. Times have changed. As a Gen Xer, I can say that with full confidence. Times have definitely changed. You never know where you're going to be on the receiving end of disrespect. It could be in the drive-thru, at a grocery store, a gym, church, the doctor's office. You just never know. And some people don't know what to do about it because we are so focused on teaching kids what to do when they're being bullied or if they're on the receiving end of unwanted sexual behavior. We don't get to the adults. You feel me? That isn't a conversation adults have with each other. How to deal with someone who is inappropriately touching you or how to deal with someone who is verbally disrespecting you. We don't talk about that because in this country, I don't know how it is in your country. It might be the same or not. But in this country, we tell people to develop thick skin. We tell them to fall back on the old saying we heard as kids: sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And that's the biggest lie ever told. What we were taught back in the day is to tolerate disrespect, endure it with a smile. You ever heard the phrase, kill them with kindness? You're not killing anything with kindness except your own mental health. When you're on the receiving end of negative behavior, anxiety increases, morale decreases, your self-esteem takes a hit, your anger increases, depression can develop. All of these are things people experience when they're targeted. I want to make this clear. It's not anything that you have done or deserve. It's not karma. It's not a curse. It is the result of people who have not been raised well and people who feel they can take their anger and their issues out on others in ways that are very unhealthy. And you do not have to deal with it. I'm talking to the adults. You do not have to deal with anybody disrespecting you, be it with words or physically. Predatory behavior comes from people with low self-esteem. They're not happy with themselves or their lives, so they look for people they think they can take their anger out on and get away with it. Now, that might be you. I think as adults, we don't hear that enough. You don't deserve bad behavior. You don't deserve to be mistreated. We are told everything under the sun when we experience conflict with others. Shrug it off, let it roll off, give it to God. Well, sometimes God wants you to help yourself, and that's why we're here, because I'm going to teach you how to help yourself. I'll share some scenarios with you. I won't tell you if they're fact or fiction because that's irrelevant. What's important is that you walk away from this episode feeling empowered to stand up for yourself or others. I think sometimes we're put in situations not to make things comfortable for ourselves, but for the betterment of others. And what I mean by that is you might be dealing with a difficult person on your job. And let's say you get another job, you quit. Okay, you don't have to deal with that person. But what about the people who are left there? They have to deal with them. And you might be saying, well, that's not my responsibility. Okay, whose responsibility is it? We don't always get the life we ask for. But if we can make life better for other people, then that's the way it should be. Sometimes somebody has to stand up and say, enough of this. I'm not dealing with this. I look at problematic people as thorns that need to be plucked. You ever looked at a beautiful rose and reached out to touch it and you pricked your hand on a thorn? It hurt, didn't it? Now you were able to soothe yourself and maybe you cut the rose and cut the thorns around it so you can make a nice bouquet for somebody because you didn't want them to hurt themselves on the thorns. That's how you have to look at it with situations. Everybody may not be as educated as you. Somebody may not have your gifts, public speaking or properly documenting when something happens. Everyone is not equipped to deal with situations, but some of us are. And when we are, we have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that problematic people are dealt with. Now, I'm not saying go out and get a gun or a knife. Don't get yourself in jail. Listen to what I'm going to tell you because it's all legal. And it may be uncomfortable for a while because no one likes confrontation. But the end result will be you eliminate the problem. So let's get into it. Let's say you're on your job and a new person is hired. Now, if you're like me, you can feel energy. Feel whether this person is a good person or a bad person. And some might argue, well, people aren't inherently good or bad. Everybody is the same. No, some people give off really bad energy. And people like myself can pick up on it. You don't talk to this person, they don't talk to you. You do your job, they do their job. Eventually, they get comfortable. And they start making friends. Maybe you two don't hang out in the same circles. But one day, this person gets an idea to come over to you and say something to you. Maybe it's small talk about the weather. Maybe they ask you about your family. You brush them off because you're not open. But it goes on like that for a while. And one day you're standing at the copier and this person sneaks up behind you, puts their hands on you and say, you look sexy today. Now, if you're a straight woman, and that's what I'm speaking as, a straight woman, that's my lane, strictly you know what, you're not going to receive that very well. In fact, I think that would piss you off. It would piss me off because how dare someone, I don't care what your sexuality is, you don't have the right to put your hands on a stranger and tell them they're sexy. Now, if that happened to you, the first thing I want you to do is remain calm. Because if you hit this person, you're going to get fired and you're going to go to jail. And you don't want that. You don't want to throw away everything you have on somebody who doesn't respect you enough to keep their hands and their unwelcomed, unwanted attention to themselves. What you're going to do is look them in the eye and say, please do not invade my personal space and keep your hands off of me. If they want to clap back, you say, and this is the last time I'm going to tell you. Then you're going to go to your desk. You're going to document the date and time it happened, and you're going to file a formal complaint and send it to HR. Because that, in most states, is called sexual battery, no one has the right to put their hands on you for sexual gratification. After you file a complaint with HR, you should be hearing something. Either they'll call you into the office to speak with you, or they'll give you something in writing. If they give you something in writing, keep it. Just in case they don't do anything about the person, you have documentation of the incident. All right? Okay, let's pull this out into the community. Let's say you're at a grocery store and an employee puts their hands on you and tells you how sexy you look. You are to report that to corporate. I don't care what chain it is. Then you are to go and report it to their direct supervisor. If the behavior does not stop, go to the media. Because let me tell you, nobody wants their business out in the open, especially organizations that have sponsorships and who want to keep their image in the community. And once you go to the media, you go down to your magistrate and you file a civil complaint. Why a civil complaint? Look up the law in your state. If what they have done is sexual battery, you can sue for damages. And in some states, depending on the severity of the situation, it's also criminal. You can have them arrested. Now let's switch gears. Let's say there's no sexually inappropriate behavior, but the behavior is unwelcomed and unwanted. There are people in this world who feel they can say anything to people without consequences. If you're on the receiving end of this, let me say again, it is not your fault. It is not something you have done. And really, it doesn't have anything to do with you. If it wasn't you, it would be somebody else. I don't like the phrase hurt people hurt because it gives them an excuse. If you're hurting, you need to deal with it, either through therapy, spirituality, something. But you definitely don't have the right to take your issues out on somebody else. Let's say someone is making inappropriate comments to you. Let's say a gym, okay? You go to a gym and a staff member feels they can tell you where you can work out. I'm here to tell you, no, they can't. Because as long as you're paying your membership, you can work out anywhere you want. That's number one. What they're trying to do is assert dominance. Listen to what I'm saying. Some people live in fishbowls. The fishbowl could be their job. It could be their hometown. But for whatever reason, they don't leave because they're comfortable. And how they grow comfortable is they make everyone else uncomfortable. That's right. Whomever they feel threatened by or don't like, they run them right on out of there. They make everyone else submit to them. But that's going to stop with you. It is very dominant, antagonistic, bullying behavior, and you do not have to deal with it. If they try to tell you where to work out, I want you to do something. Ignore them and continue working out where you want to work out. If the behavior escalates and they keep telling you where you can work out and where you can't, go to their director, but make sure you have your date, your time, where you were, what was said. Have all of that documented before you go to the director. Okay? There's a reason I'm telling you this, because documentation is everything. Okay, now they realize they can't tell you where to work out because you've already let their director know. So what are you going to do next? Nothing. You're going to keep working out. But the behavior is going to escalate. So get ready for it. Let's say the next incident is a nice, nasty comment. Oh, are you leaving? No, I'm not leaving yet. Oh, good, because you have some work to do. Now, if you're fat, you already know they're making a slight at your weight, which is very inappropriate and very unprofessional. Don't go back to the director. Document it. Date, time, where you were, what was said, and hold your peace, because they're going to do something else. Let's say the next scenario is they ask you very intrusive personal questions in front of strangers. You already know what to do. Document, date, time, what was said. Now you go back to the director and you let them know what happened. Because now you have what I call a paper trail. You have at least 3 documented incidents. And it doesn't matter if they have witnesses who may lie for them. Most places have cameras. All they have to do is pull the footage and watch it. Most importantly, every organization has a mission statement with policies that everyone is to follow. Treating consumers with respect is one of them. And if they're not following the policies of their organization, then they need to be held accountable. And never feel guilty for reporting them. It's not your behavior that set things in motion. It's theirs. Go back to the director, show them your documentation, and say, look, I like coming here. I don't want to leave here for whatever reason, but I don't want to deal with this person. I don't want to interact with this person. Now the responsibility is on the director to handle that employee, okay? Because some people feel after they've ran off what they feel in their minds is the competition, they can just keep doing it. And sometimes they run into the wrong person. As I said, you who may have the education, knowledge, experience, background, skills on how to handle conflict. Now it's your job to stop it. Because if you don't, somebody else is going to come behind you. They're going to run into this person and they're going to leave and they're going to keep leaving. And so this person owns the keys to the kingdom. And guess what? Maybe they might be promoted to director. And that's not good. Dealing with conflict is not easy, especially if you're working in a corrupt workplace. Now, I'm going to share something that happened to me personally when I was working in a very corrupt environment. Management was corrupt. Employees were corrupt. We had to get frisked and searched like an inmate because there were some employees who were breaking the law, bringing in illegal contraband. So all of the employees had to be frisked, whether we wanted to be or not. And there was a female guard that was behind me. She frisked me. And before I could put my hands down, she cupped and squeezed my breast. And then she stepped back and laughed. She did this because, number one, she was ignorant. And number two, she knew that I couldn't reach back and punch her the way I wanted to because it was a setup. Had I reacted and hit this girl and kept hitting her the way I wanted to, I would have been fired and I would have been locked up. And management would not have done a thing about it. She would have become the victim. There's a reason I'm sharing this story with you. Because I know some of you are in the same situation I was. I had to swallow it. And I had to file a formal complaint, which went nowhere. Because as I said, I was working under corrupt management. But I still stood up for myself. And guess what? She didn't do it again. But let me tell you a little something about bullies. They're good in the workplace. But when you see them outside of the workplace, they don't have all that bravado. I'm speaking from experience. Now, you might be saying, well, if it didn't work for you, why should I file a formal complaint? Because it needs to be documented. If your management won't do anything about it, you still have laws in your state. What she did was sexual battery. And you don't have to wait for management to do anything. You can go right down to your police station and say, this happened to me, and press charges and let the investigation go where it's going to go. The most important thing is you stood up for yourself. We're not children anymore. We can't react to tough situations with violence. We have to be smarter and use our brains. And that's what I'm telling you to do. Documentation is your first and best line of defense. Document. And once you think you have enough, take it to HR. But I'm going to tell you, HR is not for you. HR is there to uphold the values of the company. So they're going to do what they need to do. But if management doesn't do anything about it, take it to the police. If the police don't do anything about it, take it to media. Because now it'll be out in the open. And once situations get out in the open to the public, people start to take notice because now something else has entered the chat. Liability, damages. Can you guess where I'm going? Yeah, I guarantee you there's an attorney out there that will take your case if your documentation is in order and if the behavior is severe enough to warrant suing for damages. Whenever you get into a situation you feel is overwhelming, I want you to listen to this episode. I know there's a lot of laid-back people in the world, but sometimes you have to stand and fight. If you don't stand up for yourself, nobody else will. And with that, I'm out of time. If you learned anything in today's episode, I need you to share this episode and hit that follow button. By now, you know where. Podbean, Spotify, Samsung, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and more. You can even listen to our episodes on my website, www.21bluelash.net. My Mayman duology is complete, and Book 1 will release on January 1st, with Book 2 releasing on February 1st. The ebooks will drop January 15th and February 15th. I always release the paperback and hardback versions first, and that cuts down on pirating. Be sure to grab your copies at your favorite bookstores, and if you're in the U.S., you can buy directly from me at www.dlhanna.com. I will be back with another episode. Until then, be easy, take care of yourselves, fight for your rights, and as always,